And today I want to talk about the three most important parts of your coaching business. Now, you might be thinking like, is it AI? Is it marketing? Well, it's probably not the things you think the way we lay it out. And if you come to our workshop on AI and coaching last week, we talked about this a lot. In fact, we talked about it today at our CMC Pro member 90-day challenge for helping you build clients. And every coach I talk to has one of these three areas that is missing or has an opportunity to level up. They're either missing consistency or they're missing a big piece of that puzzle. So I want to walk through the three pillars. And if you do these three pillars consistently, your coaching business will grow. It's that simple, but it's not simple because it's not, well, it is simple, but it's not easy. And that's where a lot of coaches struggle. And if you don't have support or community around you, helping you make sure you're building these pillars of your business, and yes, AI can help you with some of these. Yes, you can automate some of this stuff, but the process of building it is what turns you into a great coach too. So I'm going to walk through these three pillars for you. And what I'd like you to do is think about which one of these three pillars is the bottleneck right now, because every business has a constraint. And there's usually just one constraint in your business. There's one thing that's just really the bottleneck or the barrier, and it's in one of these three pillars. Because you can say like, oh, I don't want to focus on these three pillars. I just want to focus on the AI. Well, AI, what part of your business is AI going to help you with? And the answer is not everything. I mean, yes, AI can help you with everything, but I want you to understand this from a business mindset point of view and a coaching business perspective. Because as you build your coaching business, if you're not consistent or lacking in one of these three areas, it will hold your business back. 100% guaranteed. And that includes you use AI or not. So let's start with the first pillar here. If you're watching this on video, I'm going to draw it over here. But if you're watching the audio, I want you to imagine three circles. First one is putting yourself out there. And the reason it's called putting yourself out there and not marketing is because it doesn't have to be digital. It can be digital. It can be in person. It can be phone calls. It can be DMs. It can be social media. There's a lot of ways to make yourself, the word I would use is visible, and visible perhaps towards an outcome, right? Visible as a coach. If you're not visible as a coach, you're not going to be able to get any leads, right? And so you want to have leads, but the way to do that is to make yourself visible and to put yourself out there, to talk about coachy things, whether it's with people in your network, whether it's just asking for referrals or following up with those referrals, getting in front of people somehow. And so there's lots of different versions of this. In my business, it's a lot of referrals, right? Make sure I'm asking for the referrals, making people think about who in your life would really benefit from what we're doing here. And then following up those referrals and inviting them forward. And we'll get to that. But are you getting yourself out there? So for most coaches, they think, I need to build a huge social media following. In fact, today in our 90-day challenge, we were talking through with a coach that needed to figure out their AI. And I was like, let's talk about, what are you trying to figure out? Well, I want to build a workshop for a boot camp for a certain niche. And the problem wasn't that they needed more AI. In fact, you can go down a million rabbit holes with AI. Now you can use AI once you're clear on what you're going to use AI for and whether it's going to make the difference. But just having AI doesn't automatically give you a strategy and give you a plan. So we worked through this boot camp, and once we figured out what the plan is, like why it could work, what successes can we build on, and what is clear and what is not clear, then suddenly you start figuring out, like, if I put myself in front of people this way, then I can leverage AI in that way. But otherwise, you're just kind of like shooting blanks and just trying AI and all that stuff. And there's value to experimenting. Absolutely, you should be experimenting. But experimenting with putting yourself out there is very, very valuable to the coaching business, because this is what leads to everything else. If you don't do this, nothing actually ends up happening in your coaching business. And by the way, meeting somebody in your network for coffee or for lunch is a way of putting yourself out there, because you're building a connection. And that person might know people or might be a client, or you might be their client. Who knows? But if you're not putting yourself out there, whether it's virtually or in person, whether it's digital or analog or whatever way you do that, you will not be able to build a coaching business. So I'm not going to give you the one way fits all for this, because it's not. It is absolutely a custom for you. And that's the challenge. There's so many different ways to do this. You might be scattered between a lot of different ways. And oftentimes the answer in this area is focus, being strategic, having a plan, and knowing how you want to put yourself out there right now. and say, I'm going to commit to this way of putting myself out there so I can learn what works in putting myself out there. Like maybe you're going to learn, like, this is actually not where I want my energy. This is not what's making the difference for me. And maybe you have to adjust a little bit. So part of putting yourself out there is learning as you go and doing. So that's the first pillar, is putting yourself out there. And now I want to go to the second pillar, because if you are putting yourself out there consistently, that leads to the second pillar, which is really, really important. And a lot of people think different things when we say this. Leading the sales process. Are you, an emphasis on leading the sales process, right? Are you leading the sales process? What this means is when you put yourself out there, you get in contact with people, you get potentially leads, you get connections. Are you getting yourself to help them take the next step in your process? And as we talk about, there's a process to making people into a coaching client. There's a relational process. You build that relationship with them, you provide value, you discover what their needs are, and you make them an offer. But they never get to that point if you don't lead them through it. And as I learned in the dating world back when I was dating, like, if you don't take a step forward, they don't know that you're interested. They don't know that you can actually add value. Well, I'll use the word add value because we're talking about coaching business here, but you have to show them and indicate that there's value to continuing together, to collaborate, to partner, to coach, whatever it is for you. But leading them means a lot of things. It means taking them from somebody that saw you in your visibility and to someone who's in your pipeline. Now, not everybody you put yourself out there in front of or connect with is going to be a lead, and that's okay. We always recommend developing your network, becoming that person who connects a lot with people, because that leads to people who you can help, whether it's people that you connect with personally or people